Here we go. Tim's here to explain our new light board. And he says it comes with a DVD, so we'll have that there. And you think it's possible to make copies of that?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Rock, Richard, the rest picking up parked in front of the school. The law is here and would like it moved.
All right. So, how do you run this thing?
Okay, most important thing first is how you turn it on. There's a little rocker switch right back here that rocks on.
All right.
And actually right now I even have, I've changed the cord out so that the monitor plugs right in with the board. So the monitor will go off when you turn the power off.
Oh, okay.
Once it comes on, you should get a screen. It comes up. The layout of this is probably what I need to go through first. The first two rows are channels.
Okay.
And we're just going to go to a one-to-one patch. So if you find an outlet up there or a quick cable that's number 13,
All right.
and you bring this up, and let me find one we can see real well. There we are, number 14. That light must be plugged into number 14. So you figure out whichever number the lights are plugged into, and that number is the same as the ones on the console.
Okay. So right now you're just figuring out which lights you want to run.
Right.
And those are the top two rows?
Top two rows are just all the individual controllers.
Okay.
Now there's room for expansion. 37 through 48 right now don't do anything.
Okay.
Because we only have 36 dimmers.
Okay, so we could add
Another 12
all these,
circuits and
all these.
yep.
So these are empty.
Just 37 through 48.
37 through 48 are empty. All right.
Okay. And 35 and 36 come out to little pigtails instead of hanging up above, out back by the dimmer pack, back in that cupboard, in that little closet corner.
Yeah.
There are two little, looks like little extension cables sticking out of the side of it. They're labeled 35 and 36. And that way, if you had a table lamp on a box set that you wanted to have come up and down with the lights,
Yeah.
you could run it around. You have to use an adapter because it's a stage plug. But plug it in there and bring the light up and down.
I'll have you show me that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to do is convince the actors they can't shut the lamp off on stage, because if the switch is off, you can turn the power on all you want and it's not going to come on.
Okay.
So you kind of tape the switch away from them so they can't do it, and they'll just reach up underneath it and then you flip it on or
Okay.
like that. Or if it's wall sconces or something, or even a light shining through a window. You could take one of these Lecos down and shine it through a window for like moonlight or something, and that's where you could plug it in back there. Now, I don't think you have any extension cables, but we can cover that if we need to down the road. We can get you something. There may be some buried somewhere. I think there were originally some extension cables, but I don't know.
Okay.
I've slept since then. So anyway, so we've got the top row, two rows are just the dimmers.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, the first three are
Yeah.
actually the house lights. These can house lights here.
Okay.
But they will only work if the four switches back in the back up stage right are switched up, and it says up above them.
Yeah.
There's a little silver light. If they're switched up, then you can control them from the board.
Okay.
If they're switched down, I don't know what they run to, but they're not, you can't run to. But that way, what I've done is at one point is I brought those up, I recorded them to this bottom row, which are submasters.
Yeah.
So instead of having to change this every time you need to change a different scene, I can set those three up, and I can record sub 24, and I already have, so your house lights are just on this one slider.
Okay.
Now, the thought on this is that you might have some lights on the front of the curtain when you start out. And so let's just say you get this before it even opens. You could record that, and it's record sub 1, enter.
Okay, do that again. Record.
Record sub 1, enter. Now it's going to ask me, are you sure? Because there's already one there, because I just did it.
Yeah.
So I'll hit enter again to overwrite it. And then you may need a blackout next, or your first scene will show. So let's do record sub 2, enter. And then the next scene, record sub 3, enter. Okay.
And those, so when you record it, where are you putting them at?
Yeah, they're the submasters on the bottom row.
On the
So
bottom
this
row.
first one would be the lights that we had selected for the first time.
First.
That could be before the show opens.
Okay,
And you could take that down, well, actually, you probably have the house lights up. You could take that down, then take your house lights out, and then bring up your first scene, and then take that out, and then when they're ready, up with the next scene, and down, and the next scene, and just keep going right along
okay.
with all the different lights. And you can do 24 submasters.
Yeah,
And that usually will cover, because you don't have to, you can go back and use one over again. And that usually gets you through about any show or music concert you need. There's a way to put more than one page of submasters, to where you could have 2 or 3 or up to 8 pages of submasters if you really need lots of submaster keys. You don't need to know about that right now. That's
Okay.
something more.
and then
so-
all of them that you're talking about's on the,
Should be on the training disc. Yep.
okay.
Now, this side here looks scary because it's got so many buttons.
Mm-hmm,
But you don't use very many of them at all. So let me start with the first. These 2 sets of faders are for playing back cues if you write cues instead of writing submasters. Cues are basically like a submaster level, but you give it a time, how fast you want it to happen, and you can run through those in banks. And there's 2 sets of faders so that if you've got, say you've got a sunset going on behind in the back, you could load those cues on one set of faders, and you could be changing the lights on the front on the other set. And as long as the 2 of them don't talk to the same dimmers, the 2 different effects will just keep running on going as they want to, and they can. So you can have more than one thing going at the same time. We'll get to that better in a little while. Up here we've got these are basically screen names. Right now we're in stage. There's also next is preview. That will show you what the next cue looks like. Or you can, yeah. Devices, if you have moving lights, this will operate moving lights, scrollers, pan tilt, moving heads and things to where it will be gobos and such. Cue sheet is nice when you get to cues because it lists all your cues, but you can edit them on the screen instead of having to duplicate them to change anything. Track sheet's good for after you've gotten cues written and something's just a little too bright, or a good example is if you had a Fresnel burnout and the new lamp is a whole lot brighter than the old one was, and it really shows. You can come to the track sheet and just change that one level on all your cues without having to re-record all of them. Playback is some people like to use for while they're playing back cues because it gives you less information above, but it gives you your submasters. Patch you really won't have to worry about here because we have a 1-to-1 patch. If you had more than 48 dimmers, then we would use the patch because you'd have to at some point put dimmer 7 and dimmer 9 both on channel 12 or something like that. You'd be grouping it usually in colors or areas or something. And you can do a patch there, but you won't need to worry about that at all because you've got less than 48 dimmers. So just a 1-to-1 patch. Setup is one where we've got some selections. You can actually enter in here a show name if you want, file name. There's right now it's set up for 144 channels. That's probably plenty. Channel bump, toggle bump off. If you hit these lower buttons, they will bring the lights up full. They're called bump buttons. And you can do disco with them if you want. But if you want to turn this one on, number 6, so if I go 6, enter, and then toggle it on. Now if I hit this bump button, it will stay on until I release it. Now if you're in the middle of focusing lights or something, that might be good. But it's really not any good if somebody hits that by accident. So it's a thing to know of, but I don't ever have it turned on.